Yeah, so during the Second World War, New Caledonia was a military base for the US. And so when Americans arrived, they obviously came with everything.
Like
Like
we always do.
Americans like to do things big.
Yeah.
But so they came with like all of the like Jeep and Coca-Cola and all of those. Like also like
Right, welcome to another episode of Diaspora Podcast. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Julie. She's visiting from New Caledonia. Is that how to say
yes,
it?
that's how you said.
Did I
Nice.
say it
Yes.
correctly this time?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I just learned about her country and I'm really excited to talk to her because I just thought it's really cool because I found something I know nothing about. So let's just kind of like start. So your home country, what is the name of the capital city?
Noumea. So the capital city is Noumea, really small country, middle of the Pacific. Just so if anyone doesn't know where it is, it's between Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, we don't know where it is.
That's really, yeah, really small. Eh? No, it's really small. 300,000 inhabitants, and it's literally a small French island in the
Okay.
middle of the Pacific, so between Australia and New Zealand. And so the capital city is called Noumea. So
Is that French?
yeah, I mean, it's a French colony. It was colonized by French people 2 centuries ago or 3 centuries ago. And so we are still like a country of France. But yeah, we speak French and everything, but we are a bit more independent than any other colony of France.
Do you guys still have to like wait for France for like big decisions like elections and stuff like that?
So this is like where we are different. So we actually do work, we do vote for the president of France and everything,
Oh,
but we have our own government.
right.
So we have like the government make their own law for the country, which
Right.
can be totally different than France.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because we were in transfer to become independent. And so there was some transfer of competencies. And so because of that, we have different law, I would say, that some like than France. So it's a bit more independent than any other colony.
Or France.
Yeah. So we are considered, so France has, because it has so many different colonies, it has like territory of um, like Pacific territories or a department, and we are considered as a country because we're a bit more independent.
Interesting. So do you guys have your own currency?
Yeah, which we share as well with Tahiti. So it's a franc. It's called Pacific franc. The currency is XPF.
So it's different from like the
It's different from the
French.
from French franc. Yeah.
Interesting. That's good. That's good. So you guys have your own government, have your own way of government,
Yeah.
but you also still kind of entangled. It's almost like an entanglement with France in
Yeah.
some way somehow.
So it's sort of like, so in terms of competency, like the military is still owned by France.
Okay.
So we do have a military base and school and whatnot, but it's still owned by France. So that's one of the competency that haven't been transferred.
Okay.
And then in terms of schooling, there's several competency that's been transferred. So we do our own program and everything. Still need to be in agreement with the one in France, because at the end of the day, the baccalaureate you're gonna get is gonna help you to go study overseas or in
Obviously.
France. And so, but you need to be able to have the same sort of like relation. So yeah, so you don't have to do another like extra class and to
That's what we're
get to
saying.
the same level. Yeah.
So what you're explaining is that you guys have the same curriculum as France, so that if someone is
Yeah.
studying New Caledonia, they can transfer to
Yeah.
France and continue their education.
Exactly. But we do have like special, like for example, we learn about our own country, our own history.
Right.
There's some competency, like for example, a big example is like if you do a test, they won't be sent. Like the correction will be done inside in the country, not outside. So in some country, you do your test, the copy might be sent to France to be corrected. For us, it stays in the country.
Interesting. So right now, it's almost, well, the end of December, right now that we're recording this podcast. So, what is the weather like at home? Do you guys, I guess, snow as well?
No, it's like sunny.
Really?
30 degrees. Sorry, I don't know in Fahrenheit, but 30 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Really hot. Yeah, it's like it's the middle of summer for us. It's like a really nice time.
Do you guys get like snow time at all?
No, not at all. So I think our lowest temperature will be around, I mean, our winter will be around 16 degrees, 15 degrees.
How much?
But like some part in the mountain can be like 5.
Right.
But like generally speaking, you don't go below 0. It's like really rare, like maybe in the middle of the valley, on the top of the mountain, might be in the our winter, but it's more like a tropical winter. So it's not that cold. It doesn't really get cold. It's
So
like
when was the first time you saw snow then?
so because my family, I have some family in France.
Okay.
My dad family, I did visit and I did saw snow like maybe around the age of 5, but
Okay.
I barely remember.
You probably remember it.
Yeah, but then I went to Vancouver, so I live in Vancouver,
Yeah.
and because of this, it's I saw some snow there, and I'm like, yeah, it's not. I don't think I'm made for snow.
Yeah. Snow is different. Snow
Yeah,
is
it's
different.
really beautiful, but it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah. So what? So French is the official language
Yeah.
in Caledonia, right? So is there any other dialects over there?
So there is actually 27 or 28 different languages. So because it's a tribe, it's a tribe. So native people, they live in tribes, and usually the tribes are families or couple of families together, and so they all have their own language.
Right.
According to where the tribe was located. So if it was two tribes that were close to each other, they might have the same dialect, so they could sort of understood each other. Otherwise, they would not be able to understand each other. So when they colonized New Caledonia, the official language ultimately become French, sorry. So that's everyone speak French and learn French at school, but then in the tribes you learn like your own language. I do not speak any tribal language because I was not born in the tribes or anything, but like this is different like language, but they are not official.
That's what I'm saying. So they're not off. So you guys don't get news in those native language because they're very.
No, but in so what will happen is wherever you are from, they will promote the language at this area. So, for example, I was born in a village. I mean, I grew up in a village, and it's a small village, 2,000 inhabitants, and the main language will be like shown on the, for example, on the signs.
Right.
On the road sign, there will be the translation, how you say it like normally, but then there's the French word on top. So yeah, so they will use it like, and you can learn at school. Like in my school, I had you could learn
Right.
like,
Okay.
and some people will learn it, and it's really interesting. It's just that you will not really practice it,
Right.
but like it's just to keep like it's a bit like the idea of keeping the to live like to keep it like alive, because some language, if you don't practice them, they can die off, and you don't want that. So to keep it in the culture, they still teach it at school. And when we were kids, until like middle school, it was compulsory, so you had an hour or two every week. So it was really interesting.
Do you still remember?
I not really.
Because you don't
No.
use it anymore.
No, I never really use it. I just remember the bad words. Which is
Oh,
always the
yeah.
case, right? I'm not
Yeah.
gonna share that.
All right. So if I'm in New Caledonia and I'm in this, do you guys have like area where I can go to the streets? I want to get a street food. So what am I getting? What is like the go-to food that if someone is visiting that you're like, oh man, you have to get this food because we are the best at it.
So the traditional food that I personally really like is called bunya. So it's basically it's a stew, but it's made with like you either chicken, fish, or some sort of protein. And then there is like yam. It's like a different type of yam, has purple yam or like yellow yam or white yam. And after with coconut milk,
Mm.
and like you put it into some banana leaf, and you close it and you cook it underground. So that's a
On
native
the ground?
underground. So you make a fire, and then you cover it basically, and you
It's
leave
like
it.
coal kind of, or is it coal? You do
Yeah, sort of like it's just sort of like you dig oven and you put them in,
Oh, okay.
and so then you cook it. And so usually it's like it's this is a native people dish, and it's really famous for ceremony, like weddings, like, or even like death, or like baptisms or whatever. Like it's a really like famous
Like
dish.
funeral.
It's so good. It's more like traditional.
Right.
And then I would say like also New Caledonian food has a lot of like um Indonesian and Asian influence.
Interesting.
So our food, so for example, I love like I mean, if we say nembes, it's more like spring rolls, which is really different than the spring rolls you have in North America. But it's really nice, like stuff like that. Or we have something called sugar pork. So it's like pork with like it's like a pork like a stew, and then you
Okay.
eat it with rice. So that's mainly like what we eat. Like we have several dishes that are really famous, but they are not like apart from the bunya. They are not like you could say, oh, they are like Asian like dish, but yeah,
So
they are like sort of Asian, but then we sort of like transform it and made it a
to
bit
your
more,
own
yeah.
thing, right? So, you guys are also kind of close to Indonesia. So, do you think that's kind of where the influence kind of
Yeah.
come over from?
So there was several migration. There is a different influence in the country. So there is obviously like native people, which are Kanak, and then there was also New Caledonia was a penal center when it was colonized for France. So there was people that was sent to New Caledonia in a penal center.
Yeah, when you mean
Yeah,
penal center, it means like a
they were
place,
in jail
people
basically.
that were
Yeah.
sent to jail, kind of.
Yeah, but like instead of being to a traditional jail, they were sent to New Caledonia. And then those people were asked as well after to sort of like promote the country and to like look after calves and like, like cows and whatnot. So it's sort of like when they were released, when like after a few years, they were released, and so they were looking after that. And so those people also like represent another part of the population because they never left New Caledonia, so they've been there for like several like generation. And then there was influence of there was a lot of people from Indonesia, Vietnamese, Chinese as well. And so I think all of that sort of like is a bit of like different culture mixed together, and it sort of like bring those different influence. So yeah.
That's interesting.
So there's a big, like some of the biggest family in, like, a fun thing in New Caledonia, if you give me a family name, I could recognize, like, if they are just there as a temporary
Or like
or they have been there for a long, long time, you just recognize, like, there's really famous, like family name that you sort of know. And because the island is not that big, you sort of like recognize it. So yeah.
you were kind of telling me this off camera about how New Caledonia have some American influence, like to some part of it have American influence. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so during the Second World War, New Caledonia was a military base for the US. And so when Americans arrived, they obviously came with everything.
Like
Like
we always do.
Americans like to do things big.
Yeah.
But so they came with like all of the like Jeep and Coca-Cola and all of those, like also like the culture. Like, but it's really like stereotype American, like
Right.
it's so they came with all of that. And so when they left it. So there is like a lot of like we have rodeo and like it's a bit like a stockman, like yeah, like hunt, like yeah, there's a bit of this culture that came. I think it was already a bit there, but like it's just really emphasize it. So there is people like when they do party or celebrate birthday, they love America, like the stockman like idea of rodeo and like hunting and like yeah, and it's really fun. Like we do have like it's a really more like I would say simple life in terms of like people go fishing, hunting. You're much more like outdoors. Like it's less of especially where you're from, like you do when I'm from, like not being in the city, like growing up like in a small village, is like you really see those things. And so there's a big separation. Like I'm from the East Coast. I was raised in the East Coast, and the
East Coast
West
of
Coast
New Caledonia.
of New Caledonia. That's what I mean. But so there's more like, so it's a bit more like how we say that, there's more Kanak, there's more native people, and then but there's a bit of a really like it's quite visible. And then the West Coast is more like like descendant of colonizers, so like people that stayed are a bit more stockman and stuff. So it's a bit this is like a big difference. And so yeah, you see like people, they love like going like they will take generation, like for example the family will have a land and will raise like cow, like do have a farm, and everyone will sort of take it over. It's a bit like, it's really like generational, and it goes by generation from generation, and that's a big thing. So usually the kids will just be like thrown into it when you are young, and you go like hunting, fishing with your dad, and you just learn how to do it. And then when you get old enough, you're gonna run the farm with them, you go help, like really different, really like I would say more simple in terms of like you don't really have like this whole like and like you don't have takeout, like you don't have like, for example, for food you don't have option to go to a restaurant, you just eat at home. And
Right.
where I'm from, my village was developed because we had three high schools, so three schools, so we had the whole curriculum, so from kindergarten to high school. And then we had a swimming pool, couple of shop, like maybe one hotel, like really limited. Like I never in my life, I never grew up and be, oh, I'm gonna go and have ice cream somewhere. We don't have that. Like it's really much more like simple. In the capital cities, a bit different. It's a city, so you have obviously more services, but we are really limited in terms of services. But we have the basic one.
Right.
So then you go and like my dad had a boat when I was young, so my activity will go fish with him, and then his friend knew someone, they go hunting, so we'll go hunt with them. And then like this is basically what was the life. So yeah.
Right. And what you were saying, I just want to correct. Well, I'm not going to correct that because I just want to explain that to people that are listening. When you're saying stockmen, you mean countrymen. So they're called countrymen here.
Yeah.
People that do hunting and do like outdoor stuff
Yeah.
are called country here in America. But that's interesting. So but you were saying even though you grew up in a village, but the village still have, a school and have amenities, but it's just not as big as the
Yeah.
city, the capital city where you talked to me about. So before we leave home, I have one last question for you. So if you have to describe your people, your countrymen with one word, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say like um, tradition. I think to me it would be like keeping on the tradition and bringing them on to next generation, really important. Even like, and also, and yeah, I would say like even like for Kanak, you have like the keeping those tradition within family, like the respect of elders, and there's a whole system like in and I cannot speak, like I know the basic, but there's much more into it, and I don't want to obviously say things that are not true, but like
Right.
from what I know, there's a really big respect for elders, and it's like from different, obviously, because I think there's different there's two main population, I would say, in New Caledonia. I mean, in terms of two main culture, not population, two main culture, and totally different culture. So, but in for Kanak, like the respect of ancestors is really important, and so the way that you the live, like even the hut that we have, like they live in huts, and the system, the familial system is really important, and they really do maintain that, and I think it's really beautiful to me because there's a lot of country that those traditions sometimes get like forgotten by with the change of the world, like it does get forgotten, it does get really changed. And I think it's the same for the old Caledonian, like that are like more like countrymen. They do keep those traditions, they do want to keep the like to give it to their kids, like they do want to keep that, and it's really, I think it's really cool, it's really nice to be able to keep those and to still be able to have your own identity even though
Right.
the country was colonized. Obviously definitely like there was some downfall of it, and
Right.
totally like it's in it's there was definitely things that most probably have been missed. And I for sure, and any colonization is never like easy, and there's
Right.
always things that's been erased, and like totally. But I think like being able, like I live in other country, New Zealand, and I could see how like the Maori culture for a long time was really dismissed. Even like Australia was a bit like that, and seeing that and seeing back home that this is not like this. It's still like it's still there. The culture is still there. I found this. I think that's something that is really like important, and um, I think that's good that people are really caring about this.
The culture.
Yeah.
Right. Just to summarize what you're saying, when you're saying Kanaks, you mean like the native
Yeah.
people of your
Yeah.
country, right? That's beautiful. So they still live in huts.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's crazy.
It's the main, so, and it's really like they're really well done. Like there's a whole like story that goes with it,
Right.
and there's a way that is really respected to ancestors. And even the tribes is still like um a tribe, like, and is I mean, as in what I'm saying by that is like it's still, you still keep the tradition. So you have a chief, yeah, there is a hierarchy, and it's usually one or two families together, and everyone know each other, they live, and it's like you have the same land. There's a lot of um there's been a lot of like conflict about land,
Right.
like I think any country,
Yeah.
but there was a, but yeah, but still have the land, and you still like go and help your elders and do like the gardening and whatnot. Like there's still, this is still like that, and it's not like everyone live in a city or that's still like it's still there, and I think that's really like
Beautiful.
beautiful. So like you always have a like village, like in any village,
Right.
like different village, you will have like a small like business, I would say business, but sometimes it's really small, like with more amenities, like a shop or a bank or like a petrol station or something, like a center. And then all around the village is actually much bigger than what it is,
Right.
because it includes all the tribes as well that like are around like several kilometers, like sometimes it can be 30 kilometers on both sides, and that still be considered as a district. Or for example, where I'm from is called Poindimier, will be still the district, but the village itself is like 1 or 2 or 3 kilometers max.
Hmm.
But like the whole like district is big because it includes everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. That's a very detailed answer, and I appreciate it. So, do you still remember the grading though? From from the language you were taught. Do you remember the grading?
Yeah, I mean, I remember one famous word that everyone knows. We say ole, that's mean thank you. So when
Ole.
someone like give you something, say, oh, ole, thank you. And we have a really like different language. I mean, not different. We speak French, but we have our own expression.
That's kind of what I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's really like yeah, there is a lot of different
So if I
expression.
visit New Caledonia and someone give me something, I say Ole,
Yeah, they
they
will
will get it.
understand you. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get. I just
Like
want
I think that's the one as like one of the, yeah, you say ole.
to alone. So another part of your story which you shared with me was like leaving home and going to New Zealand
Mhm.
to go to school. So how was that for you, like leaving home for the first time and going to another country?
It was challenging because I didn't speak English. I mean, I learned English at school, but I didn't practice it.
Yeah.
So didn't speak English. So I had a moment of, what am I doing? We always remember that time that so I arrived, I left home when I was 18, arrived in New Zealand, and I was in a host family, and I remember the mom picking me up and saying something to me, and I was sitting in the car and I was like, why did I put myself into right here? Like I was like, what is that? Like
What
I
is
can't,
going
I want
on?
to
Can
go home.
yeah.
Yeah, I had this moment. It was nice. It's definitely different. Like you need to adapt to a different culture, different people, different language. That was a big challenge to me. I think the most probably the language, the biggest. In terms of culture and people, I just love learning about people and different cultures. So to me, that was more like of a wow, like it's such a good opportunity, and to get to know the people. And I think also being exposed, like I think when you're on an island, like a small island, it's really hard to open your mind. You only see stuff at the TV. But when you actually like, I remember having interaction with people like, I don't know, people from totally different culture than me, like even more, like, I mean, totally, like they were from like, I don't know, people from like Japan, or like even people like more similar. How one of my good friends is from Tahiti, like so you do tend to go and meet people that you are similar with. But like I had people from Japan and meet people from Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, like really different like country that what I knew. So it's really interesting because you have a totally different vision, and that's really like powerful, like to leave your country and to actually meet other people. It's really nice because you actually like really broad your mind and open your mind on totally like different thing. And like don't like taking like, I don't know, take with, so sometimes we say, oh, this is only what we know, but you start to know something else, and having interaction like with other people is really cool. So I really like this part.
That's awesome. So, as a someone going to school in New Zealand, apart from like the language and the adaptation period, so how was the food? Was that hard for you to? adjust to the food in New Zealand?
Ah, so that sounds so pretentious. Yeah, but no. So food there is like it's really so I'm used to eat fish and like really like good product. Like I
Right.
mean, I think this is the being spoiled. I would say like I never realized how lucky I was with
Yeah.
that. Then you know when you leave. So I mean, I used to eat I don't know, people would just come and give you bag of food like because my mom is a nurse and they would be, oh, thank you for your help, or even for my dad they would come and give us, hey, we have some yam, here you go, some yam, like exchange, or you go on the
It's the
market, you go
exchange
pick
of
up the
goods and
mango,
services,
like, you
right?
know, that's really nice. And then you go to New Zealand and the food is doesn't taste the same. Like, I mean, I'm so sorry, but like when you're
Yeah,
used to
sorry.
eat mango from like your tree or your neighbor's tree, and then you go or someone like you go and buy a mango that's from Mexico in the super, like not to give me wrong, mango from Mexico must be really nice, but as in that was like in the
Yeah.
boat for 3 months, and it's not the same.
Yeah, same thing when
So
I hear it. So when I got here too, like I mean that one I didn't get that paying for mango part because even at home too, same thing. We just go to our neighbor and and climb the tree.
yeah. It's like that's that's the beauty of it. So I guess I mean as in like food. So for me it was, I wouldn't say it was hard, like I'm not picky, but it was definitely different. I did really miss, like I love like I don't know, I love fish, and that's something I was not eating every day. Like I did miss like the food, and yeah, did miss, I love cheese as well, so I did miss cheese. That's another thing.
So you just miss the freshness of it.
Yeah.
So you think of back home because it's a smaller country, everything's kind of accessible easily.
Yeah, and
But
I think like something like, I mean, I think maybe the transition was harder when I came to North America because at least, I mean, New Zealand is maybe a bit more local. You still find some good local food, but I never have to worry about antibiotic in my meat, for example. That's never something that I really like. I was not
to think
aware,
about, yeah, to
and
think about.
yet I still did study food science, and we talk about it, but I never really experienced it. It's not only until I came to North America that I was like, okay, that's a thing. And yeah, it's pretty interesting because back home, like the cows, like just they just run, like, you know,
Yeah.
you eat local, and you just, I mean, I didn't have my car, like I will go to the butcher, but the butcher had imported meat and local meat, and we usually privilege local meat because it's better. So it is just like what you do, like you just know that is, you just trust. So like was a big, like for me, it was a big thing.
Let's just segue a little bit, and then this is kind of where your journey became interesting was after New Zealand, then you decide to travel to Canada. So I really want to ask for your opinion because as someone that live in Canada and visit United States, you're in a very interesting dilemma because I feel like you can kind of see us from a bird view, like you can see it from like the top down because I've struggled with like the difference between US and Canada, because they're so close to each other,
Mhm.
but it seems like a completely different country on different levels, right? So, but let's go first to like you moving to Canada. So how was that? Like, what was the hard part of it? What was the best good? I want to know good parts and the bad parts of Canada
Okay.
when you moved.
So I moved just, to be honest, I moved just before COVID. So I
Okay.
guess like that was I mean, maybe a bummer because you do get more like locked up and this whole
Right.
whole situation. But in terms of so I choose Vancouver because of the weather condition. I'm not gonna go to -50. This is not happening. That was the main reason also. And so yeah, so arrived in Canada 2019. I do find Canada, like, so Vancouver, and I don't know, this is the thing, I can only speak for Vancouver. I didn't really live in other
Other
part
parts,
of
yeah.
Canada,
Mhm.
and I do think that there must be really different like culture and, you
Right.
know, like way of being. Vancouver is really beautiful. Climate is nice. You have a lot of things to do if you're outdoor. Like it's really nice. Like you have access to mountains. You have access to like activities like kayaking in summer. Like if you like hiking, like there's a lot of like nice thing there. Like it's a nice city. It's like you can walk around the city. Really pretty. I think for me the biggest culture shock that I had, and until today I think that was the biggest, it was the drug issue in Vancouver,
Really?
opioid crisis. It's also existing in Vancouver,
Oh,
and that was for me the biggest
culture shock.
culture shock. Like
Was
I remember like walking in the street and
that
being
on the
missing
street?
my
Wow.
missing my bus stop, and so I got one bus extra like stop further, and I had to go back to like I had to basically walk a bit more to get to my next bus because I had a transfer. And I walk into this neighborhood and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like it was, to me, it was really like, it was really hard because I never, and maybe, so this is something once again, maybe it's the fact, like I was fortunate enough in my life to never have to experience this. Like New Caledonia doesn't have much homelessness, especially not where I'm from, and like so maybe in the city a bit more, but not where not where I grew up. And then moving into New Zealand, which I never really experienced either, like maybe a bit in the city again, like in Auckland, but I never really like saw that in other city.
It's on a different level here.
Yeah. So then I was like, here, I moved here and I was like, wow, like this is big. And it really broke my heart because you see those people like having those addiction, and there's really nothing you can do. Like, and like, I mean, there's nothing really like you can do as to really like put them out. Like they need also to have the willing to do so. So that was the biggest one. And I think also like, so that was when I arrived. Then I was living as in a family as a nanny. So in terms, so I did experience some like really like Canadian like celebration, and with them
Nice.
it was really nice. Like Thanksgiving, they were really like lovely people. And then sort of COVID hit, so it was a bit more like of a, you know,
Shut down.
COVID was a bit of a shutdown, so everything was a bit slower. But eventually I did find a job in my field and work for different company. And I think being in more active, like as in active, like in a city, as in you have a job, you pay your rent. Being a nanny is a bit more, you're a bit more in a different situation because you
Right.
are like, I was nannying, I was paid, but I still live with them. So I didn't
Right.
really live on my own at that time, which was also hard for me because I was maybe a bit too old for that. I think, going back to a family, having to adapt
You
to
just don't
rules.
want to like, yeah.
Yeah, when you leave home at 18, your parents, that was a bit different, but that was a good experience.
Right.
And yeah, so I think another like I would say down part of Vancouver is the price is really expensive. The rent is really expensive, and COVID, at least when it was under COVID, it was maybe a bit cheaper, but like the past like year just skyrocketed. It's so expensive. That's something for me that is it's a big down part. Like as much as it's beautiful, like I think that it's really like if you want to be, I don't know, if you want to live like a studio downtown is 2,200 a month, Canadian dollars. It's a lot of money. If you are alone, it's really hard. It seems to be much more like a couple of sort of city. You
The bills
split the bills. But I'm not living like my
like that.
partner doesn't live here, so
You're like,
it's not.
no,
Yeah, I live on my own, right? I'm a bit on my own there, but yeah. So it's a bit of it's a different situation. And the other thing I would say is like Vancouver rights can be really cold. So I did find it
nights.
cold. Like I did find it really hard. They are nice, like partially, but I did find it really hard to meet a group of friends. Like it was, I have my friend that are all from France, and I met amazing people.
Right.
And some from Canada as well. Like I met them there, but like I did find it really hard to actually like
Maybe.
meet people like Canadians and or even Vancouver. Right? They're a bit cliquey, and I don't want to be like it's not everyone is like that, obviously, and
Yeah.
but it's just like it was a general feeling, and everyone and like every person I talked to, they did have a bit of the same feeling. It's like you can be friend with them, but it's really like superficial. Like I get really enthusiastic. I will meet someone, I will be like, oh my gosh, like that's
Yeah, go, yeah, let's
like
text
let's
up.
go, let's
Yeah.
meet up and stuff. And they get this enthusiasm, but then behind there's nothing.
They don't text. It's the same. I mean, it's the same thing from the city right here where I live. That's probably the hardest part for me too. Was we used to live in San Diego, and San Diego. I mean, people in America in general. That was one of the hardest thing for me to adapt to was like back in Nigeria, if I meet someone with a seat number, we're friends. We are contacting each other, we're making plans. Where in America, people do that just for facial value. They're just doing it just to do it. And that was hard for me because I would meet people who have a conversation and I would see them again and they would just act like they never met me. That was like a culture shock. But what you were just talking about, I don't think that's a Canadian thing alone. That happens in a lot of American cities as
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
What happened is people people are friends with their friends from high school.
Mm-hmm.
So when I moved to Spokane, that was the hardest part. Was like I'll go out with friends or whatever, but like you never meet people or any friend that will mean anything because they have their own friends. They have their friends that they went to high school together, that they are cliquies, that, and you're an outsider, and they don't feel comfortable. So it's actually not our fault. They actually feel intimidated sometimes because they're like, "Oh, this person is worldly, have experience more than me, so I don't want to look stupid. I don't want them to talk about New Zealand. I've not been to New Zealand, so that's what makes most people just stop,
Yeah.
which is not. I mean,
Yeah,
you
but
know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, I get it. I think it's totally this. Like, I feel like if I look at all my friends, it's like they're all from expat. Like, they're all like people that arrive in Vancouver. They're not originally from Vancouver.
Vancouver, right?
I did met really like through work, like people like like good people, and we did become friends. But I think that it's even that I think we went through a lot of like down part together at work because my work was a bit like unstable. So that was one of the reasons, like a bond. You do bond with people, but I do feel like it's having like someone just from Vancouver, it's really hard. But I don't, at the end of the day, I don't blame them. Like I feel like also they must also have maybe this idea of like, oh, they will leave again because we do come, like, are we there,
Interesting.
I don't blame them. I think it's just a different like vision, and everyone to me is like at the end of the day, I still made friend. They not might not be from Vancouver, like
Right.
from born, but they still, like they still made friends. So I think is everyone. This is definitely something to me that was hard because also I came with a mindset, and that was I learned in New Zealand because when I arrived in New Zealand, I wanted to speak English. So I'm not gonna surround myself with French people. And also I kind of have sometimes a hard time with some French people traveling because I feel like sometimes there's no respect. And to me, I was about I'm staying in a country, like I had a different mindset. So I maybe I was a bit arrogant on that and I was like, I don't really want to meet French people. Like so I really try to meet with um people from Vancouver because I didn't want to get into that group, but then I end up going on the French group and met French people, and
Right.
and people I met are amazing. Like there is obviously always there's always people that you might not click with. Everyone have their own thing, but I do have sometime I think also that's also come from my own upbringing. I think in New Caledonia you have um sometimes you do we don't have I wouldn't say a bad like image, but we have those teachers sometimes that used to come into the village, like into where like in my high school, and they were from France and they are on contract for 4 years and they come and they think they know better than anyone, and
Right.
you have a bit this image, and I think that definitely like sort of came with me in terms of like, well, I don't like that. Like if you're gonna come and treat me different because you're from France, like yes, I was born in New Caledonia and I was raised here, and so is everyone else in this classroom, right? So it's not fair. So I think we do have sometimes this like a bit of image of like how we have a bit this judgment, I would say. So that's also one of the reason. But then I end up meeting amazing people. So I think it's just like it's just really like hard. Like to Vancouver is hard to meet Vancouverite, but you can end up obviously meeting people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like a issue for like almost every city.
Yeah.
It's just hard. Like everything you just talked about, I just think like we are also different now. We've left home. I
Yeah.
think even when we go back home, we have empathy and sympathy of what it takes to leave home and leave someone else. So if we see someone from, if you back at home, you see someone from anywhere else, you're gonna treat them so different because
Mm-hmm.
now you know.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it's kind of hard for some people that have not left home to understand.
Yeah.
So, what city do you live in again in New Zealand?
I lived in several cities. So I studied in South Island called Dunedin.
Okay.
And then I moved to Auckland for a few months, and then I moved to another city called Momonganui, which is in North Island on the west coast.
Okay.
It's like a small city,
Right.
maybe 200 or 300,000 inhabitants. Yeah.
I don't think my question will work perfectly, but I was gonna ask you with the little space, with the little exploration you've done in Canada, which country will you pick as the most beautiful? Because people always say like New Zealand is the most beautiful with the islands or whatever, with the mountains. I said no islands, with the mountains and all that. So, do you think New Zealand is more beautiful, or do you think Canada is more beautiful?
So that's really hard. So I do. So I visited New Zealand from top, bottom, east, west, like
Right.
with my parents because it's really close to my country.
Okay.
I do think New Zealand, it's a beautiful country. And to me, it has always a special place in my heart.
Right.
But saying that the landscape in Vancouver is really similar than some part of New Zealand.
Really.
Actually, to me, it gave me this vibe. And it's pretty interesting. It's really like Vancouver, British Columbia is beautiful. Like it's the landscape is like gorgeous. And like even like Banff, I haven't visited myself, like but I saw like so many of my friends went picture and it's beautiful. Like you have really nice landscape. So I do think that in terms of what is like pretty, I cannot really, I would say like I need to explore a bit more Canada to really answer that.
Right.
But I do think that New Zealand and there's some really like similar landscape. Like to me, Vancouver has a bit of New Zealand vibe, which was really interesting. I love it. At the end of the day, it was the most beautiful New Caledonia, of course. No, I'm joking. No, it is. Like no, I'm not gonna say this, but obviously I'm really biased. So.
Fair enough. You can be back. Give me back. So you've only been in America, at least visited a couple of times, right? I'm
Yeah,
assuming you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
really live here that long. So I guess my question would be, before you moved to North America, America, Canada, what was like the biggest like misconception for someone from your part of the world?
So I guess like so we have okay. So that's a bit it's a bit hard question because we have like I don't know if you had this, but did you had American Dream?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay, got it, good. So like we have I feel like for me it was really like this like I mean I grew up with this American dream, like
Yeah.
everything in the state is so much bigger, like the cars bigger, everything.
It's just the
But like it's just,
best.
you know, like you have really this stereotype, like everything.
Yeah.
And I think to me like the biggest like it's just to like you I think in a way it's like when you conquer America you like sort of succeed your life. Like it's a bit of this I almost had this like, oh, if you live in America you're like so like successful, right?
Yeah.
And I do feel, and I still it still is, but I think there's so many, and I mean, I can see so many like maybe down part of the system where there's things falling apart as well. But like it's yeah, that would be most probably like, you know, like my misconception, I would say.
Is that you think like everything in America is perfect?
Um, I wouldn't, yeah, I don't know because yeah, maybe, yeah, a bit, yeah.
A bit.
I think like yeah, I feel like it's maybe like how we grew up, like having this, you know, really like yeah, like is oh, everything is so fancy and you know, like it's I don't know, it's just this attraction for America, like
So,
you know,
but
everything is
so when
like
you get here,
is
it's not the
like
same.
yeah, it's not the same. There's definitely like a really like good thing, but I think like sometimes it's maybe over sell. Like, and it's not in a bad way, like, and I'm not saying like I think like there is like I think this American dream is really like on a um it's true. I think a part of it is a bit true, but
Okay.
there's also like also it's a bit hiding, like it's overtaking everything else. And I
No,
do think that there's
it's a
something
lie.
that maybe like, yeah,
It's a lie.
yeah,
That's why I ask you. Is because I think almost everybody that migrated to America, America. I believe America has the best marketing in the world. When they show you, let's say they want to show you Seattle, they will show you from the top. They will show you the ferry, they
yeah,
will show you Pine Creek Market, and they will show you the Space Needle. They will never show you the homeless downtown. They never show you like how dirty, some part of Seattle is. That's why I love America. It's because America will show you what you need to know. Then you figure it out when you get here.
yeah,
It's just like how you and I talk about it off camera. It's like how we thought, like, you come here as a student, you think, oh, jobs should be easy. It's America. I mean, I thought I was like, I'm gonna be rich. I'm in America. No, no, man, the system is not made for you. So in a way, America kind of lets you earn it, but even while you earning it, the system is kind of made in a way where if you're not tough and determined, you're not gonna make it.
yeah. It's really competitive.
Which is not something that most people know until you get here.
Yeah, that's so true. That's true. And I think as well the visa system is really difficult. Like I
Definitely.
would say for me that's the biggest like I mean I think I sort of always knew it,
Right.
but like it's just like this I do feel like visa in United States is like really hard, and I think it's hard for like almost everyone. Like
Yeah.
you know, it's and I mean yes, of course, and take like being, and I think I have a fortunate passport, and
Right.
I really acknowledge that. But I do think that there's definitely like it's harder for some people, but it is hard. They don't make it easy at all. And I you can see like, this is I think the thing for me as well is like you feel like it's like this American dreams almost like attracts you to come, but when you want to come is really difficult. Like it's
Right.
almost they're closing it. So that's something to me that is yeah. But also the on the opposite side, like I went to a game of like a football game, and like when you're watching the movie and you're like, oh yeah, like they have the cheerleaders, and you go to the game and you really feel like that. So you almost feel you are in the movie, like in all the movie you followed is actually happening like this, and you're like, so
Yeah.
that's true,
It's
like
true. Yeah.
because I never, I mean, the system I went in sport is not. I mean, you don't have all of that, like this whole like story
Yeah.
like about sport, high
Yeah.
school you get sponsor like scholarship, all of this doesn't exist back
Yeah. I
home.
mean, everything here is on steroids. Like that's one thing I learned about this country. It's like, the one thing I would say is true is America is the only country where, if you have the right mindset, if you are persistent, if you can, work hard and believe in yourself, it doesn't matter who you are, America will reward you, but it's gonna test you, like more than anything else in this world, which I think like most people don't know. Like back in your hometown, back in my hometown, it's so easier for me to move around. It's so easier for me to get things done. But here, America, people don't care until you're successful. When you're successful, then everybody's like, hey,
Yeah,
how does
yeah,
know? So but I love it though. I mean, I've come to appreciate it because I've seen that other part of the world don't actually give you the opportunity.
yeah,
America give you the opportunity. You know what I'm saying? So it's now left to the individual to
yeah,
actually, because again, America give you this one thing. It's like the one thing that I struggled with when I moved here was the freedom. I've never had that much freedom in my life, but at the same time, it would take me to have self-discipline. Like for example, we don't have buffets back in Africa. So when I come here and I say buffet, you can eat all as much as you can eat. I'm like, what? So it's like you have free Netflix, you have free like electricity, you have everything here. It's as much as you want it to be.
yeah,
That's one thing, but you have to have self control to be able to stop all those distractions and then still stay committed to your goal. This is what I'm saying. America will give you everything. If you
yeah,
want to go to Vegas, if you want to buy everything on credit card, they'll give you a credit card. Yeah, just keep buying it. You pay it later.
yeah,
And I know people that have like $30,000 in credit. You're like, what? And they can't do anything. Then America didn't tell you that if you have credit, you can get a house, you can get a car. Like if you have bad credit. So like again, it's like America will give you everything.
but you need to know,
You
yeah,
need
you
to
need to know your limit. They let you find out your limit on your own.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's a very
It's
unforgiving
like
system,
it's
man.
like a little kid in a candy store.
Yeah, it's very unforgiving. All right, so what do you think you have gained by moving to Canada?
Oh, that's a good question. um I think like just like to me is most probably broaden my mind as well, and like my I would say work experience in one way. Like I work in several different company, and it's not sometimes it don't happen well, but it's still learn a lot about that. I think like to me it's like just like the to keep going, like like it's how say that. Sorry, I'm thinking at the same time.
No worries, take your time. No worries.
I think like it's in more in terms of like meeting like more people also from different culture. That was a big thing, and also like learning about myself a lot. I think the past few years I grow a lot and learning like about different system, and also sometimes not only thing that you like but thing that you don't like. And I
Right.
think it's something like it's really important because it's easy to know what we want, but sometimes to know what we don't want, like as in what we don't want to go to, and like learning more about yourself. So I think for me it was a really like big personal growth. Um and learning about myself, like I love self-respect and self-retrospective. So I did learn about myself, but also again like hopefully also like I'm applied for my permanent residency. Hopefully I gain like another like point of attach as well. Like it's nice to have also a place that if you don't like you don't want, I mean, if I don't want to be in New Caledonia, I can always come back here, or New
Second home.
Zealand, yeah, because New Zealand is hard as well to immigrate. So like it's just like, yeah, like having somewhere that is you give you more option. And that's something that is really like good, and it's pretty in Canada, it's easier to immigrate. Um, and I'm really fortunate with the way that it happened. So for me, it's like one of those things is like you have more option and opportunities on your plate, and you can choose. And it's always better to have more than not enough. And but as you say, you need to choose them and to act them right. So it's like it's one of, yeah. I think I would say like I gain a lot, and I'm really glad I did this move, and also like it's a beautiful, like North America is a different life. Like it's to me it's totally different than anything I experienced
Yeah, like
before.
New
Yeah,
Zealand.
and
That's
I think
fantastic.
yeah, I think it's like North America is it's really, I mean, I would say I think the US, I will include the US in that because I think it's a really different system. Canada is has really good health benefit, like, and like there's a lot of thing we could compare like with Canadian. Oh, I was gonna say sorry about the misconception, and that's what I want to say. The biggest one for me misconception is about the guns. And that, I will tell you, I was like freak out because you hear about all of those, oh, the gun. And don't get me wrong, people,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I never felt unsafe. Like I never felt unsafe. I felt sometimes more unsafe in Vancouver than I could have felt in Seattle.
Wow,
I
that's
never
interesting.
felt unsafe. I went to New York with I went to visit one of my best friend,
Right.
and I never felt unsafe in New
Well,
York.
that's interesting. That was very interesting that you said that. Wow, that's actually big. You know why? Because I never felt unsafe here too. I mean, it's a fear that when you see in the news that, oh man, that's a shooting happening. But America is it's a 50 country in one. It's a big space, so the amount of what's happening is still very very low. But it's interesting you said, because my brother in London always call me and get worried. I'm like, bro, like, I mean, I know people that have guns. Like, I've never, like, people that actually have guns, like they're called responsible gun owners. They they have them in safes. I mean, they don't
Yeah,
keep guns around the house. Like, I mean, it's very interesting, like how the world paint this picture, like everywhere in America have guns. But no, I mean, I'm not saying there's not like illegal guns here. There's a lot of guns here, but it's actually not like how people think it is. It's not like people just like throwing guns around. Like, no, people actually are very responsible about guns. That's like,
yeah,
guys, I'm going hunting next year for the first time. So I have to take like a gun class. I have to go to like a shooting range. Like, there's so much that goes into it. Like, I really wish people know that part of it.
yeah,
Like, there's so much responsibility that I have to get it safe. I have to, like, there's so much that steps that get into like having a gun.
yeah.
But that was interesting.
Yeah, that's the biggest misconception to me. Sorry, I was
No, that's
talking
fine. That's
about it, and I was like,
I'm glad you came back.
because it's like yeah, we do have this really big image of like like, and I mean most probably for me this is the media,
Right. Social
like
media.
there's always overreaction, like
Yeah.
but like yeah, it's really interesting because I never felt like unsafe, and we even with my partner we travel a bit in the States, went to Atlanta, and like anyway I went to New York,
Right.
I did California when I was young with my family. I went to LA this year as well. Like I went to different places and I never had this fear.
Yeah.
And it's like I went to like this with my work, we went to this massive expo, like a big expo, like for food, and same, it was a lot of people, and I
Yeah.
never, so it's a big misconception to me. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not denying the problem.
Right.
I'm not unmining, like I'm not, it's just a perception. I just feel like, to me, you have this beautiful American dream, but then there's, as much as they portray that, there's also all like what, or like the media will talk about all the downsides of America, and it's
I
really,
see
I
what you're
feel like
saying.
it's also really emphasized as well.
Yeah, you were talking about the media outside of
Yeah,
America, right?
yeah, it's like really
Yeah.
like emphasized, and you have like this, also you have this whole like beauty, and like this, like that attracts you, but there's also all of the rest, and you
The
feel like it's really
issues.
also like the issue are sometimes also maybe really emphasized. And I'm not saying there's no issue,
Yeah.
obviously not, but like in terms of, as traveled several like part, I never had this like, yeah, this
I'm the
feeling.
same. Yeah, I mean, the gun one is an interesting one. I mean, it's like I said, I think it's still a problem. We still have more gun shooting than other countries, and I mean, as a person that live here, I mean, maybe I'm more numb to it now because sometimes I'll be at the gym and then I'll see the news and I'm like, oh, again, like
Yeah.
it's crazy. I mean, it's definitely terrifying. But in your everyday situation, you don't feel it at all. It's just like a normal
Yeah.
country. You know what I'm saying? And also, I also want to make that clear that also it depends on what part of a city you go to.
Yeah.
So every city has that place where people know not to go. I'm just gonna tell you, like
Of course.
when I was in LA, I never went to like Compton or whatever. I never went. I have no business going to Compton. I was in San Diego. I wasn't exploring places where I shouldn't be. So when you even Atlanta, when I was at Atlanta, there's some part of Atlanta that, if you go to certain clubs, there's like traffic of like rappers or whatever. Not like anything can happen, but like those entourage of those rappers are the one that caused the trouble. So I was like, I'm not gonna. There's hundreds
Yeah.
of clubs to go. That's another thing about America too. It's like there's so much option.
Yeah.
If you don't want something, you don't have to go do it.
That's so
You
true.
don't. That's another thing too that people don't realize. But yeah, that's very interesting because I know my brother always call me and he will freak out. But that's an interesting observation though. But anyway, so to recap, you were saying you've gained experience about you learn who you are. You've also uh hopefully able to be part of have a second home, and also you said you hopefully think it make you a better person,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So what do you think you lost by moving here?
You like tricky questions.
Yeah.
You like to put me on the spot.
That's my job. I'm sorry. That's my
It sounds
job.
good. I don't know. I mean, I don't see. This is hard for me because I don't see any loss, and I'm not saying I'm not trying to be like this perfect, but like
Oh,
just like I like to count what
your
like my
blessings.
blessings. I like to count my blessing. I like to see, okay, this is how I grow, and I feel like yes, there's always like opportunity. If I stayed in Canada, and for example in New Zealand, I could have get my permanent residency, and like like, but like I feel like I gain
I
like
guess I can say, what do you miss?
what do I miss?
Yeah, like what do you think? Oh, I've been here because for me, maybe let me explain a little bit better. What I miss for me is my time with my younger brother.
Yep.
So I didn't see him for 10 years. I can never get that time back. I mean, look at where I am right now. I'm
Yeah.
so happy. I'm so blessed with all the things I have, but I can never get that
Yeah.
time back. To me, I mean, it's not a loss, but it's a
I
loss.
see what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would say like me as well, like my parents. I think it's pretty far, and I mean, COVID didn't make things easy. Like
right.
that's a big thing. I would say like that's something that really make me think during the pandemic. Is that as much as I like being in North America and like having like obviously I have Richie and like my friends and everyone here, but like my parents are far away, and that's something that it's not easy to get to them.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So the pandemic was very interesting for foreigners because it really make us realize how lonely we are in this country. And like you say, I mean, you're not the only person that thought about it. I really had to think about like, man, what if this is it? What if I can never go back home? Because literally you can't go back home, and they're telling you can't see your. I mean, even if you can't really go back home for a long time. Um, but I'll just let you know that there's millions of foreigners in America just like you that left home. But I've realized with time, and I'm not saying this to undermine your emotions, but I'm just saying this maybe hopefully helps. Like, I think the bigger the sacrifice, the bigger the reward.
yeah,
You could have been in New Zealand, but you would have not learned so much.
that's so true.
I mean, also, another thing I always remember is like, you can always go back,
Yeah,
but it's like Kobe always said, Kobe Bryant, the basketball player, RIP, always say you have to rest at the end. It's like once you get your stuff, maybe you get your paper or whatever, everything situated, you can always go back home.
yeah,
You can
that's
do
so true.
whatever.
Yeah,
You know.
and this is so true. And I don't have regret. Like I think it's just something that come into my mind. And once again, like I mean, as for me, I feel really fortunate. Like, there's people that have much worse situation, like in
Right.
terms of migration, that you cannot leave, and like it's there's people that are worst, and so I think like it's just like having this realization during the pandemic that we take it for granted, but something that was so usual in our daily life of like traveling, that when it was shut down, you actually feel like, oh wow, like this is one of my freedom that is gone.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing to me
Right.
because I think it was a big like, oh wow, okay, that's interesting. Like this is a new feeling, and you feel like a bit trapped in a way. And everyone, it's not only
Right.
me, everyone feels
Right.
like that. I'm pretty sure, especially when they ask you to stay home. Anyway,
Right.
And yeah, so it's that will be I think that will be for me the thing like what I miss the most and those questions. But at the end of the day, as you say, like I totally agree. Like I don't have regret. I think I made a good choice and it brought me where I'm now. And there's always a next chapter in life. And
Right.
if it's meant to be for God will for me to go back to New Caledonia or
Right.
New Zealand, whatever it is, it will happen. But I think at this point of time, my spot is in Canada for now. I don't think for not too long. But yeah, I think my spot is in North America at the moment. So and from there we'll see. Yeah.
You see what happens. All right. So I think to wrap up, we're gonna go back to. I have two questions for you, and I will give you the first part. So you have to think now 10 years ago, okay?
hmm
If you have to give advice for someone that is 10 years younger than you, okay? They're in New Caledonia, because I'm assuming 10 years ago you haven't left home for New Zealand.
Yeah.
So the first part is like, what if you can talk to them right now, what advice will you give them?
As in if I'm now this age.
Yeah, you want to someone
I
that's 10
think
younger
it's
than you?
like I really advise to leave the country. Not as in forever,
Yeah, but why?
because you do understand how fortunate we are. And I think we have like we have chances in New Caledonia that most probably some country don't have in terms of education, being able to go and study abroad and all of that. And also not only this is just to open your mind to different culture. Like being a small island, you are like on a you know everyone. You don't you there's no maybe those challenge. And I think if you have the opportunity and there is some opportunity in New Caledonia to be able to leave the country and study abroad. There's agreement with different schools, and you have to show up for school, and not obviously like everyone like is interested in that, and that's totally fair. But I do believe that traveling and seeing something like other thing that is not close to what you learn, like even for me, I think sometimes going to France, it's not so different. But
Right.
like having like somewhere that you can actually, abroad, and even France, you do meet people from different country, from different, and like that's really cool. And I think to me, this is something that is so I really value this, and that's something I feel really like blessed with that, because you do learn so much about you, but also about other people and about other culture, about the world. And it's like I don't know, I feel like it's you also like I don't know, it really open your mind. To me, open mind is like really like you break bias, you break like stereotypes, like you learn something that most probably like you have like we all have stereotype, we all have grown up with some beliefs, and breaking them is beautiful because oh my gosh, like why did I even believe that, like
Right.
so that's something like I would say like I would really advise. And also for your own self, like I think you learn how to be independent, and like you have some challenges, and like learning about you, what do you like, what you don't like, what do you want to do, like exploring the world. Like it's really like to me is being able to leave the country and actually leaving home, like leaving your comfort zone, like because when you leave stay home, you stay in your comfort zone.
Right.
And challenging this, it will always make you a better person, because you did it once, and then you learn, like you also wire your brain to to learn how, like, hey, if I'm not like liking the situation, it might
I
be
can't
too
leave.
comfortable, I can leave, I can do something else, I don't have to do what like as much as I think. And also once again is according to what everyone feels. But I think sometimes we don't push ourselves enough. Like as in, like going out of the comfort zone is hard. It's not easy for everyone.
Right.
And I think doing it sometime, and just being, what, I'm gonna do it. It's great. So that's will be my biggest advice.
So as someone that has been, in various countries for the past 10 years, and you are where you are now, so the second part of the question is, what will you tell that person, again, that's 10 years younger than you, that they should cherish about home?
I would say like the simplicity of life, because you do get like into, and that's something and I'm actually learning this like this trip in Spokane. It's like not learning is something I rediscover. Sometimes you get really caught up into what everyone is. Like, like it's being in a city, you have stimulation, like left, right, up, down, like wherever you want. Like you feel really like attracted, like, oh my gosh, I want the latest thing, I want
Yeah.
the latest thing, I want the latest thing. And this back home you don't have like this. Like, and it's not you don't have it, but you don't, it's not as present.
Because it's
And
all around you all
yeah,
the time.
and this simplicity is to me is like I mean, in my vision of life, going back to basics, I think it's one of the it's really nice. Like being able to keep, cherish the simplicity, treat your culture, your tradition, your family. And that's something that I think it's yeah, simply like yeah. It's like life is really simple. And if you and actually life is always really simple.
Right.
But like when you go, I feel like when you get to cities, you get so much stimulation that you want to achieve like
So
or like
much.
you don't sometimes and that's something I experienced like being also in a city and coming from a small village, you can feel lost a bit. Like you'll be like, okay, where where do I belong? Why do I want to do this and that? And like you have so many things and it's really like over like
Stimulating you kind of.
yeah, and overwhelming. And
Yeah.
then so then I feel like this like going back to, basic like, oh, also like another thing for me is like this community. I love the fact that like, you can walk on the street and say hi, like simple thing like that. Like I do that in the city, people think I'm crazy.
They were like, "Who's this crazy
But
first
like
lady?"
and
Yeah.
that's like and simple stuff like I mean I remember and I mean because it's once again it's a small village and I remember my mom is a nurse and my dad is a teacher and like they knew a lot of people and people knew me and I didn't know them. But that's okay. Like I mean it's great and they'll be hi and you just say hi and this I really miss that. Like I think this like proximity and having like talking to you go to a shop, you talk to the person, you exchange. I feel like this is in big cities sometimes you lose this and that's something for me that I believe that that's something that I don't want to lose. And I think when you're from like different like you're not like the individualism of city when you didn't just born in it. It's something that maybe sometimes you miss. Like having this like proximity with people,
Right.
knowing people around you
Right.
can have been good part or down part. That's
Right. Right. Right.
like it's always like this. But yeah, it's like that's something I would say like the simplicity of life and proximity with people and there's this like sense of community that's something that we like I cherish and I would say like to always keep in mind like always like remember like those and like don't get caught up into like oh you need the next like iPhone 13 like
Yeah.
I mean it's an example but like
Yeah.
it's easy because you have it all over you
Right. You have
like
have it constantly.
yeah
Yeah.
it's not
That's
like I mean, like for example, like I only for me having McDonald's, like it was something like it was an event because we don't have one in my village. We don't have you
right.
go to like it was on a weekend, you go and get it. Like it was, and that make it so much like simpler. But now you can have on Uber it, literally
Yeah.
can be delivered. Like
Yeah.
it's this and I think like it's yeah, I miss that.
Just the
Yeah,
simple life.
yeah,
Because I think it's more special, right? People know each other more. Because that's a saying, like people that just they all move too close to each other, but at the same time they don't know each other.
yeah,
Nobody knows anybody in the city.
yeah,
People are busy. I mean, that's one thing when I live in San Diego, I learned that really quick was like it's not made for people that are starting their life. It's made for people that already created their
yeah,
life. Because I mean, I just work to pay rent. I don't even have time to enjoy anything. I couldn't.
yeah,
All I do is pay rent.
yeah,
And then, like you said, and then I'll go on the highway. I would see hundreds of cars that are better than my car. You go to any restaurant, you see hundreds of people. That, what I'm saying? Like, cities are just so fast,
yeah,
and you don't even get time to even think what you want to do. And I think
yeah. That's so true.
that's kind of why I like spoken a little bit. I mean, I've been tempted to move to a bigger city, but I know that if I'm there, I'll be so distracted by so many things. But when you're here, it's more boring, but you can be focused. If you have a goal, you can execute.
Yeah, that's so true.
You can get it done.
Yeah, and also I think like the other thing is so like it's funny because when you are like I remember growing up I was like oh my gosh it's so boring like
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
was like I have nothing there like and you just go so like attracted by the TV like it's all of that like
Yeah.
like and now I miss it it's very
Yeah.
interesting it's like because
Yeah.
like you always like miss something when you don't have it
Yeah.
but like I do think that it really like it really like to me it's like I almost want to go back to that life and I
Yeah.
think once again like it's also a life that when you are like settled down and you have your family your kids like this is a beautiful life because you do enjoy you have your friends and you look after your kids it's a nice
Mhm.
life but like yeah when you are younger you do want to go and party and like oh
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the city I want to do this and that and it's nice but I don't like it's I think now like you also when you grow older you go back to those like
Yeah.
basics
I
so yeah
also think it's a human thing. It's like we're never happy. So it's like when you're
yeah
in your hometown, you wanted all these things here. Now that you've done those things, you've partied, you've traveled, you've seen up, you want to go back home. My brother always warned me about this. It's like he said, when you go back home, don't be surprised. After a week, you're gonna be bored
Yeah.
because the home in your head, it's not that same home anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so you're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
get
so
back
true.
there and you're gonna realize that, oh, yeah, it's really, really boring.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
You
like,
know,
oh, that's why I left.
that's what, or sometimes,
Yeah.
you need to have that balance though. The
Yeah.
one thing I think I hope we all get out, me myself included, is like we need to go home at least frequently, even if we don't stay home, because we need to keep remembering who we are. Because when you go back home, you'll remember exactly where you are, who you are, why you left. And the longer, as someone I've not been home in 10 years, the longer I've left home, the more I feel like I'm just like I still know where I am, but it's like I'm forgetting those things. Like I'm forgetting certain memories, and it's they're the memories that are so special to me that I'm like, man, nothing in this world will makes me want to miss that. Because actually, when you talk, well, the things that humbles me, the things that drive me are those remembrance of those humble beginnings of like, man, I remember what it used to look like, and I'm glad that I'm glad where I'm at, but not remembering what it used to be like is just so painful.
Yeah.
I feel like some part of me has been like
Yeah.
taken off. So I can't wait to go back home and rekindle those memories. But I'm also aware that it's never gonna be
Yeah.
what I want it to be.
I think we have sometime a fantasize memory. Like,
Expect
but this is true. I think, especially when you haven't been for a really long time, like you do like really fantasize, like, oh, it was like this,
yeah.
and then like once again, like we go back on such a short period. Like we don't stay enough to
Right.
experience sometime the bad,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the bad, but like I would say the down part. Like any country, I think, like even to me, it's like I always remembers like really like there's always positive and negative in any of
Right.
them, and there's things we didn't like, and even in New Zealand, there's things I didn't like. But like when you are living in it, I think it's sometimes you get caught up, and it's easier to see those things that like our brain is sometimes I feel like as human, we are really sometimes it's easy to stay focused on the thing that doesn't go well,
Right.
and so if you live in the country and you get so like used to all of those good things, so you forget, like it's not you forget, but it's like you keep like you will more be focused on all the small negative things that add up because it's your daily life.
Right.
Because for example, one day you're gonna wake up like and the bus was on time, you want, like, I mean, I'll give an example, or like, oh yeah, this again, like you increase again, like it's because it's more in your daily life, right? But so when you think about home, you have like this, oh yeah, that was so good, because you don't remember those
Don't
days
remember, yeah.
when you were in that
No,
routine,
yeah.
like
Let
this, you need to think harder.
yeah.
So I think it's one of those things. So always like, yeah,
It's not even think it's like you have to experience it
yeah.
again. I was thinking about going home soon at some point next year. And my brother, I forgot about mosquitoes. Forgot about mosquitoes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
I forgot about mosquitoes, Like I started thinking about it, I was like, man, like every night, right? I used to go to bed to mosquitoes. So like it took 10 years of not doing that. It's like I don't my brain forgot of mosquitoes, you know? That's
yeah.
what I'm
That's
saying.
so
So
true.
you have to experience it. Like you said,
Yeah.
you have this fantasy way of thinking it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Going home in 2 weeks. Yeah.
And so,
The think like, yeah,
and
all
so-
the disease that goes with it too.
yeah. And then malaria, yeah. Malaria is like the
Yeah.
scary part. All right. So the last thing, I guess my last question would be, as a citizen of New Caledonia, you grew up there, that's your home country. What do you want the world to know about your home country?
Um how special it is now. First of all, where it is. No, I'm joking. No, it's really like, so it's really interesting because no one know about New Caledonia until like usually I get these answers. Oh, New Caledonia, and this is,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, it's either this and yeah, I know where it is, and I know that they don't know, or
Eh,
I get, especially in North America, or I get this answer, excuse me, where are you from? No, like, and I have to explain, and
right.
it's, I think to me, New Caledonia is a really unique country, and I think it's like, and I, it's really interesting because I never see it like that until like now, even like explaining, like sharing it with different people and showing like video, and it's really beautiful. Like it's really special. Like we have really such a beautiful diversity. We have like a melting pot of culture, and like the whole like, to me, when I look from outside, I was like, wow, we have such a special country. And it's interesting because I feel like people sometimes don't realize in the country. And until you go out and
Right.
live different life and experience different thing,
Mm.
you realize how like, wow, we are like, it's really
Special.
special. Like in terms of biodiversity, like we have the largest, like in terms just of feature, but also the different influence you have, like all of that, like when you take globally everything, you are like, wow. And there is obviously, it's not perfect, it's not, nothing is perfect in this life,
Yeah.
but it's really unique. And to me, I think it's like this, like, I don't know, it's I come to realize that we um yeah, I never really emphasized that before. Like I just thought, yeah, I was
Take
comfortable.
it for granted.
Yeah, and like, oh yeah, I'm just from New Caledonia. And now I realize now, like, oh wow, actually I'm from New Caledonia. Like
Right.
I was born there, I went there. It's
Yeah.
really special. And I think that's what I would like people like to see, like, like how, like I just would like people to visit it.
To
Um
experience it.
it's, yeah, experience yet. It's not also, like, I see how it's really interesting to me because I think coming from this island now, I grow up and I realize how first blessed I am, but also like how I we have so many different influence, and when you actually learn about it, you can relate to so many different people, and this is, to me, it's so nice. It's like you can, and not as in like, but you can realize like, oh my gosh, yeah, I know about that because I have this too. And small thing like that really, like, it's really unique, and it's really nice because it's, I feel like, bring a different experience. And yeah, I would love people to visit and experience it, and like see like how it is. And yes, it's not a touristic country, it can be, it's really expensive, like there's a lot, but it's a beautiful country and it's really unique. So I think that's something, to me, that I would say it's really different.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank
Appreciate you.
you.
This was amazing. I feel like
Thank
I
you
learned
so
so much.
thank you.
That's
Thank you so
it.
much for bringing me. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy.
So much.